Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Welcome to Magic Monday, Starseeds. I am Rachel Z, and we are going to be doing a chart reading of the Everlasting Now, which I'm going to get to in just a moment. And then we're going to do a single card major arcana pull from the Shadowscapes deck for all zodiac signs, starting with Aries. So we have a Cancer new moon today, and so it's a very emotional new moon because Cancer is the sign that, well, rather, the moon rules the sign of Cancer. And the moon, if you're not familiar, of course, is also concerned with the emotions, your inner child, your inner mother. And so if you are feeling very emotional today, just like myself, that is why, because all of those energies, all of those themes as it comes to our deeper seated emotions and even our relationships with our mothers, both biological and archetypal relationships, mothering relationships, Mother Earth relationships, the moon relationship with the earth, and how that translates to us on a personal level is very much amplified right now on Monday, Moon Day, New Moon Day. So I also wanted to use this time to talk about the cycles of the moon and the fact that women also go through somewhat of a 28-day cycle. And it's not to say if you don't bleed, or because I didn't have my period for a very long time. I've only recently come back into rhythm, into cycle with my body and my systems, which has been a real blessing. But it's all to say is it's more just to monitor how you feel in relation to the moon, because I always say that, you know, we're like majority water, right? Made up of water, and we think about how the tides are affected by the moon's gravitational pull. Then it serves that, of course, we would be likewise impacted by the energies of the moon's gravitational pull on us, if we want to look at it as just like purely scientific. But from a cosmological standpoint, from a neurolinguistic astrology standpoint, which is my lens, my personal lens on it, I like looking at the planets as thought form entities and what they represent in us, both within and without, as above, so below. And so without further ado, let's get into the actual chart of the Everlasting Now. And so you can see here the moon, freshly new moon, a fresh new moon, also known as a dark moon because you can't actually see anything on the new moon. She just looks dark. I am going through this whole idea of looking at, myself and Kevin actually just did a really emotional ritual about burying old parts of yourself and old storylines and old loops, because new moons are a good time to burn away what no longer serves so that you can start to build and manifest on fresh, fertile soil. We also do have the sun in Cancer. Actually, the moon looks like it could closely be in Leo. Let me just double check. I did this show late, right? No, it's still in Cancer. It's just in that later degree of Cancer, 29-degree Cancer. What is also very interesting is that we do have the lunar node also moving into Aries. And let's all remember that lunar nodes are not necessarily specific planetary points. They're instead a mathematical equation as a result of other positions within the chart. So we do have the lunar node, the north node, which is a node of destiny, the head of the dragon, sitting in this later degree of Aries before it cusps into Taurus. One of my favorite astrologers, Lada, was saying that the last time this happened, Chernobyl happened. Just because it's transition, right? Whenever you think of, even when I did the Bonnie and Clyde chart, I also did a transition chart, or the death chart. And it's just like any kind of ending. It's just a transition, and there can be a lot of tension, a lot of stress as we transition from an old phase into a new phase. And that's kind of what's happening here right now. So we have the emotions that are like really high in the moon of Cancer, with our sun also in Cancer. So there is less of a barrier between our inner and external worlds, and so I think a lot more of those I'm speaking from experience is coming through a lot more. And I don't think I finished my thought in terms of the ritual. Yeah, myself and Kevin did, where releasing parts of you that no longer serve you, like old dreams, old goals, old selves, all good things to kind of like let go consciously of in a new moon phase as you work towards growing whatever it is you want to work on, projects, endeavors, things like that. So this is a good time to release and then manifest. And like, tomorrow would be a good time to manifest. Cheers in if you're already in Truth Tuesday tomorrow already. Other things to note, as I said, the lunar node has moved into Aries. We have Chiron still in Aries. Neptune is in Pisces. Saturn is also in Pisces. As I said, the dream world is very active. In some respects, can feel a lot more real. Your dream world can feel a lot more real than reality. That's how it feels like, for sure. And the nodes shifting is a big deal as well, just because, as I said, it's about the destiny of the whole. So if you have your own natal chart and you're looking at the lunar nodes, that's like your own personal destiny in this incarnation and in this lifetime. And so there's something very special. So all of you who were born with the true node in Aries, you're going to feel this shift very personally. You're going to feel it in a big way in terms of your path and what you're going to aim to do in the next year and a half. Just because you're going to feel like your destiny, the nodes of the overall destiny, are also now going to be intersecting with your destiny. So whatever that ends up looking like, what that ends up expressing is up to you, but that's what's kind of happening in the cosmos right now in the sky. Last thing, I always have to bring up Pluto just because, like, I'm always keeping an eye on Pluto. It's retrograding still. It has retrograded back into Capricorn. It will stay in Capricorn until the end of the year, until we go like full-fledged Pluto in Aquarius, Age of Aquarius, all of that like social upheaval and changes over the next however long. So this is kind of like the time to get your house in order, get all of that good stuff going, so that when we hit, the changes are already starting to happen, right? The lunar node's moving, and us feeling emotional right now, I think, is a lot of us feeling emotional about like having to let go of things, right? Because as much as you know, you have, as you let go of things that no longer serve you, that it hurts sometimes, right? Even though you feel a lot better once it's all done. So that is the chart reading for the everlasting now and the new moon in Cancer. So happy new moon. I hope you let go of something that doesn't serve you anymore, and I hope that tomorrow you can think of a manifestation of what you want to come to fruition in the next upcoming full moon and this next lunar cycle. And yeah, and also, like, as I said, the nodes of destiny, the head of the dragon is now in Aries. The warrior spirit is activated. So we will have our pilot episode, I think, of Warrior Class Wednesday live. I'm aiming to do that Wednesday evening. I think it'll be a little bit of a tutorial / like fun little skit on hamstring, what do you call it? Straight like deadlifts. Yeah. Because I always see that being done wrong, and it should be done with like your hamstrings and not like your lower back. Okay, so let's go into the actual readings. I'm going to bring on, I have a little educational tool. And this is just also to keep me honest about, like, I'm just going to try to make sure that time stays pretty equal for each of the signs. Sometimes I go on a tangent for each one, but I'm going to try to keep myself honest. So we're only using one deck today. We're going to be using this because I was late. Sorry. Next week I won't be. We're going to be using the Shadowscapes deck today. Just the major arcana. We're going to do a single card pull for all zodiac signs. And we're going to start with you, Aries, with our fun lunar node in there, as well as I do have a lot of placements in Aries, so I feel this shift as well. Okay, so actually let's just do another little shuffle, just in case. All right, Aries, what do we have for you? We've got Strength. That's a good card. I think that Strength is one of those cards that is ultimately always very benevolent, always very gratuitous and favorable. And so for you, Aries, with this shift, this lunar node shift into your home sign, you're going to feel a special connection between the destiny of the all, of the whole. So you're going to be called upon to act. And I think all that this is saying here is that you do have, there's something special that happens when your alignment with your goal and your purpose is also aligned with like the greater purpose of the universe, say, and you know in your heart of hearts that is the case. This is also very representative of Leo season and lion-heartedness and having courage, and you do have all of the blessings of being able to have the courage and being able to have the power to have strength within in order to ensure that your destiny is also aligned with the greater destiny of the all, Aries. So that's everything for you. The Strength card, Aries. It's good. I feel like sometimes like there's a lot, like there's lessons, right? Like you have to let go of something, you have to like sacrifice something. But in this case, like just have strength, and you know, destiny will reveal where those elements are in your life that you can lean on to gain that strength. So next we have Taurus. And Taurus, we have the World. I love the World. The World is actually my keystone card. So when you have a tarot deck, not that you should, but ideally if you're doing certain types of readings, you'll pick a card that represents you, like as a keystone. Sometimes you pick like Queen of Hearts, but Queen of Cups, which is like the equivalent of that. But that's to say, Taurus, you have the World. I do feel like Taurus is very much the sign, an earth sign associated with the earth as well. And so with the world is very much the idea of accumulation. And so if we think about the fact that the lunar node has moved out, like it's moved out of Taurus and now into Aries. And so I feel like, you know, I was saying like now that for Aries folks or people with Aries placements or things that in their chart where Aries is kind of like this point of taking action in the warrior spirit. From a Taurus perspective, because the lunar node has been in there for however long, 18, 19 months, there should be, I think there's a feeling of fulfillment or accumulation of something has occurred with this new moon. And I say this about certain books, you know, or certain movies. Sometimes you'll notice, or like events or parties or things like that, where you're in the moment and you're having so much fun, and then just the thought of like, oh wow, this is gonna end. And so there's also like a bittersweetness, I feel like sometimes with the world, where like you've achieved it, you've come to the end of the journey, but that also means that the journey's over. So still with the new moon themes, Taurus, of being a fixed sign, it can be hard to like fully accept like you have perhaps whatever this is, relationships, a job, a project, anything, you've reached the point where it's time to embark on the next adventure because you've garnered everything that you've acquired from this previous adventure. And in order for you to start a new one, you need to make sure that like it's not like holding on to all the branches. I mean, in some cases you can kind of multitask. I'm like the queen of that, right? But what do you say? Jack of all trades and master of none. So that's my reading for you, Taurus, which is also a reading for me, which is the world. And that thought in my head of like, yeah, in order for you to step into the new and step into who you truly are, you also have to put to bed, like, you know, old constructs, old ways of being. Okay, so next we have Gemini. So I haven't set this up to be exactly to the chart at the moment, but if we just do a double check there, of course, I know all my signs now after. I don't have to double check. I know all of them. I'm going to be doing a little live presentation thing on Friday in honor of Venus Fridays on 11 a.m. every week. And it will be we'll do an Isis Oracle, 1 card pull. But before then, I will have to tell the grand love story of Isis and Osiris. And I still have to make her crown. So there's all of that stuff happening this week, as well as warrior goddess training. And if you're interested in warrior goddess training, where I've spent a lot of my life being a personal trainer, I still am a personal trainer, but I infuse a lot more like mystical and magic in it now. More aware. I always did it. Now I'm a little bit more aware. So for example, training different modalities is different. What motivates different people is different when it comes to training. Anyways, we're going to get to you, Gemini. What we have is the Emperor. Nice strong card. So, Gemini, let's talk. I have a lot of Gemini friends, and you're very comfortable with the fact that you have like your multiple selves, and I'm cool with that too because I have a Gemini moon. But the Emperor here, I think there's a lot of strength and there's a lot of drive and there's a lot of ambition that comes with this card showing up in the context of the Cancer new moon and the fact of letting go and stepping into whatever new projects it is that you want to be going for. I think that this is more of either, I have 2 interpretations for this. Either one, you've been waiting for this, like the nodes to shift so that things could feel less like in a state of limbo and more like clear in terms of a direction that you want to go. Now, the other reading to this is considering that you're a Gemini and you're probably always keeping in mind the fact that there are multiple ways, multiple junctions that everything can go. And then maybe you want to go in all those directions at the same force all the time, like, but this like goes back to my other thing of like, you got to let go of the branch and make a decisive decision. And the Emperor is very much representative of that Aries energy, which can be selfish too, right? So that's why it's always good when you have a card reading, when you're like, okay, this is the drive, like maybe this is like my state right now, Gemini, I'm hustling, I'm getting it, I'm doing stuff done, I'm doing like everything. But remember, new moons in the cycle of things are a time to reflect. So perhaps this is a sign saying that you have been doing this like hustle, and maybe it's like take a little breath so that you can ensure that you're directing your Emperor energies in a way that is the most efficient for what it is you're trying to do long game, Gemini. Because I know it can be easy to be distracted by like all this other stuff that happens and like the short your emotions that end up happening, especially with now being a new moon Cancer, and just like you feel all the emotions. But yeah. I think that was a little bit of like a convoluted reading, Gemini, which I guess is classic. But so the Emperor is all to say that you have that fire and that drive and that hustle. So it's a matter of, I think this is just a time to take a little pause and go like, okay, let me just take a little double check to make sure that I'm honing and aiming my energies in a direction that makes the most sense for what is best for my highest, best self. Okay, so that's my reading for you, Gemini, the Emperor. And then we're going to move on into Cancer. Cancer, we've got the World, which is beautiful because, as I said, Cancers and Tauruses love each other very much. The Moon and Earth are very good friends, right? the moon, Earth, and Venus, all like sisters and friends. So the world, in the context of you, Cancer, you're probably feeling a lot right now. And I think, as I said, like the lunar node shifting also came with it last time that this happened. You know, Chernobyl happened. So there's almost like this anticipation that some sort of environmental impact is going to happen. And so Cancer, I feel like when we say environmental impact, what that environmental impact will do to you on an emotional level. So let me give you an example of what to illustrate. Let's say you have an emotional attachment to a particular camping spot that you always go to every year with your family. And this one year you're not able to go because of the weather, or the campsite was like bought off or sold, or something happened. So some sort of environmental factor happened to impact the emotional weight and meaning of going to this campsite every year. And so that is what I'm talking about in terms of certain scenarios that can happen environmentally that will impact you on an emotional level, Cancer. And I think what the world means is that the world does have your back. You have to also practice discernment to ensure that we aren't just holding on to old successes constantly instead of cultivating new challenges for ourselves too. So like, you know, like holding on to like the fact like, well, I did win this award like 20 years ago, but like, what have you done lately? And Cancer, like Cancers and Tauruses have this in common as well. It's like, it's really hard, like to like, especially if you're comfortable, to like move, even if that move is into a better state of being. Okay, Cancer, that was my reading for you, the world. So Leo is next, and we have the devil. Leo, little devil on your shoulder. Out of the devil card, like I had like my Astro Matrix devil card looks very like, it's scary. This one also is kind of like, because the devil card's about being a slave to your lower impulses. So when we talk about, I don't look at it as entirely evil, right? Remember when I talked about the aspects and how, oh yeah, oppositions can be challenging, but if you can learn the lessons that they set out for you, the tests, there's so much self-empowerment to be had. And so Leo, with the devil here, I look at this as perhaps with this new moon, there is an opportunity to meditate, go in deeper, and relook at how you want to be doing things. And now Leos, I like Leos a lot personally, and they're like one of the fixed signs as well. So like all of those leadership qualities, that confidence, all of that good stuff, love it, Leo. But also you need to ensure that you ensure that even if you like, you know, like on the onset when you like start out a journey, you're like, yeah, this is exactly what I want to do, and then along the way we give into, let's say, like lower impulses. We make certain decisions that aren't quite aligned. And so new moon is a good time to come like, okay, am I in awareness of what my impulses are? Because remember, I'm not trying to be like square and celibate or anything like that. It's just more like there's always timing for things, and that's really what astrology is all about. And so Leo, as you embark on this new lunar cycle, as we embark on this new overall lunar node cycle, just ensure that only you will know for sure if your impulses are in alignment with what it is like is true. Yeah, so Leo got the devil card. I would say the best way to deal with the devil card or energies like that is alchemizing them, right? So you take them, it's just like art and things like pain, right? So if you have like pain or suffering and you're able to like draw or poetry or make music, that's one of the most, I feel like it's like the most healthy way, probably the most ideal way to deal with a lot of those hard to deal with difficult emotions. Okay, so Leo, you had the Devil card. We're going to now move on into Virgo. And Virgo, you get the World too. Wow, she's coming up a lot. It's the Schumann resonance rising and the whole world thing happening. So Virgo, oh my gosh, let me just double check. Who else had the World card? Gemini, never mind. Taurus and Virgo are both earth signs. And so the world is very earthy. Think about, like, if you look at that, she's like looking down on the earth, the omniscient view of being both where this whole opera of life takes place, and also the being that is also taking care of us, like the archetype of mother. And so the world, but also in the tarot, the accumulation of everything, of the journey at the end of it. And so Virgo, you are probably reaching the end of something. And so whether it is a class, because I mean, like, school is now ending, right? So all of this is to say that it's like an end of a cycle. We are ending something and you're going to be starting something new. So also, and this is something I recognize from being a project manager, you also have to recognize your wins and lessons. And we do this thing in project management called retrospective. And so this is kind of like a retrospective for you, Virgo, and to take a look at what have you learned and what can you take from the lessons you've learned from the last cycle and bring that into the new cycle without being incredibly hard on yourself, because every Virgo I've ever known has been a total perfectionist with any placement. So everything has to be absolutely perfect. And yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that we all need to have more balance in our lives. More because you do need standards, right? Like, even in like art and creativity, when you're trying to make, like what I'm trying to do, like make a comic book or a saga, you still need structure. Otherwise it's all just free floating ideas. There's no actual practicality into how to make that come to life in 3D land. All right, so we are halfway through. We are now at Libra. So Libra, my cardinal signs, my cardinal air sign, the other sign that Venus rules. And we've got like challenging cards for you, Libra. I apologize. The Hanged Man. And the Hanged Man's all about, there's a fairy here too. And if we think about this in the Shadowscapes deck, there's a lot of, it's like spirits of the earth, the fairies, the magical, and the Hanged Man is very much a throw to Odin, Woden's Day, Wednesday, and the idea of sacrificing his left eye in order to get knowledge of the runes, hanging on the tree for 9 days, and self-sacrifice in order to gain knowledge. And that is ultimately Libra. That's what's kind of happening here, that there is going to be a process, a change, or this new moon, or perhaps this is the recognition of a process that's already occurring, where there's a level of part of you dying in order for you to gain the appropriate skills and experience in order to make it to the next stage of the story. So that is my reading for you, Libra. We've got the Hanged Man. Okay, next we have Scorpio. Good old Scorpio. Always forget that Scorpio is a water sign too. And remember when I said like oppositions, like you look across the chart, so Scorpios are opposing Taurus, and so it's always interesting. I end up with Scorpios around me, but hey. Also something to note that each constellation, due to their size, is different. So because of that, not the coverage from date wise is not always the same. Okay, so anyways, tangent. We're gonna get to you, Scorpio. You've got Death, which, Scorpio kind of rules the underworld, and is like Libra is supposed to be the separation of the chart, and then Scorpio is like the underworld, before you transit. And so death here, I was saying about the whole new moon burning away what no longer serves you. I can think of no other symbolic representation other than the phoenix rising from the ashes being a better representation of what that means truly. So Scorpio, you are, even though water, you are fixed water, so it's almost like Scorpios can be fixed in their emotional state. I don't know, it's like the moon is ever changing and you're like, or one time be like, oh, I'm so angry, but now I'm okay, I'm over it. Scorpios, not quite as easy. So I think there's a lesson here, Scorpio, that maybe there's certain emotions like guilt, or maybe you've been like carrying something with you, something emotional, especially like new moon time. It's like, it's a time to burn that away and stop carrying that with you into the next phase of whatever it is that you are becoming, Scorpio. And it's also because Scorpio knows so much about underneath and unseen that there's so much level of like suspicion and maybe even like suspicion of self, but there's also something to be gained from being able to burn down and cut away contracts that aren't working anymore. Also because Scorpio deals with contracts and stuff like that too, right? And there's something to be said here about letting things go that perhaps were never really supposed to start in the beginning because they didn't have the appropriate groundwork to really make it past one cycle of what it was meant to be doing. That makes sense. Okay, Scorpio, so my rating for you is death and then renewal, rebirth. But there can be something so freeing about just finally like letting it go. You know? Okay. We've got Sagittarius next. So Sagittarius. I didn't shuffle. I just re-looked at the death card, so it won't count. Alright. So new moon in Cancer. Lunar node shifting into Aries. Sagittarius, we've got the Tower. I don't know if this is better or worse than death. I would say this is more challenging in the sense of the Tower I would say the distinction between death and the Tower is that the Tower can feel more material. Death can be more of like, okay, a past self is going away. Tower can be more of like, I need to move homes, and more than just past self needs to go away. Everything around that past self needs to actually also crumble and go away too. Yeah, a Tower moment. People get so scared of it, but I feel like there's always like an opportunity here too, because maybe that Tower wasn't serving anything, and it wasn't like, it's not like a Tower is natural either. And you know, we're always harping back to like the Tower of Babel. We're like, oh, you like wanted to come up so high to the gods and then smashed it down. I think there's way more to that story than what is let on, but in terms of the context of this reminds me a little bit of what happens at ancient Atlantis, where you disregard the cycles and so build something that is in defiance of it. And if you don't take into consideration the natural laws, it will come down. So Sagittarius, beautiful sign, fire sign, very idealistic. I think that's what, to me, this is probably where you're going to have to do some work in terms of belief structures within yourself. What you believe about, let's say, certain systems, or kind of like that's gonna probably go away. Like when I was in university and I was like studying to become a psychologist, I went through a huge disillusionment with the therapeutic model, right? So that kind of idea where there's this idea or belief about a certain system or like an idol, anything, like a doctor, whatever. Like it's just, you just thought like for sure, like this is like a good thing, and then it just isn't. And I think it's just in the recognition of that it's not, you get this feeling of the Tower, but it doesn't last forever. And this new moon is a good time to acknowledge it, just let it go, so that all the other good stuff can kind of happen. Otherwise, you just end up with Tower moments constantly, and then that just becomes exhausting. You don't ever get a chance to actually build anything. So Sagittarius, you have the Tower. Best of luck. Next, we have Capricorn. We're in the final quadrant. I'm going to start maybe in Cancer. Actually, we should be in Leo season, so I'll start in the sign that we're in next time. So Capricorn, we've got the Hanged Man. Interesting, the cardinal signs are getting this whole self-sacrificing message. And when I say self-sacrifice, it really does have to be a self-sacrifice. I find that people like to bypass, and you're like, I'm going to sacrifice other things, or like easy things. Only you know if a sacrifice is truly one that matters, truly one that it has weight, truly has something that's worth something. Or another reading for this, something just came to me in terms of, it could be just that you're going through something right now, and it can be hard to see what the point of it is. Right? When we go through suffering, it's just like, why is this happening to me? But when you take a little bit of a step back, or if you're like able to reframe the situation or just give it enough time, you'll see that there was always a reason, and maybe there's a different way of looking at it now that time will eventually pass. Or to have a little practice thought experiment of what it would feel like. Imagine all the reasons why you would have to be going through something like this. That's why really good movies and really good stories are really important, because, the conflicts and a lot of things that certain characters that you feel for, you relate to, go through, and when they are able to actually overcome these like obstacles, you're like, oh, wait a minute, maybe there is a way out of this. Okay, so next we have Aquarius. And you have the Chariot. A little crab here, holding up a little pearl. Like, there's an egg. Could be an egg. The egg, or rather the orb. Symbolically, circle of all creation. And we also have the turtles here. Reality turtles all the way down. And the Chariot is just like, okay, Aquarius, like, here I am. I'm going to be doing what it is I need to be doing. Remember I said, like, Pluto is moving retrograde, and it's in a Capricorn for a time before it moves finally back in Pluto for good. And so this is like, Aquarius, you got stuff to do before that happens, before Pluto comes back into what your sun sign will be. You have a really innate ability to connect. And here's the challenge of Aquarius, right? The aloofness, like all this intelligence and understanding of how to socially, let's say, throw an event, but then the actual action of doing it, the practical part of it, I think that's where Aquarius needs to realize that to partner with other signs that have like me and Kevin talk about how like he loves to ideate, and I'm more of like a Taurus, and it's about like synthesizing, but then distributing. You don't need all of those different things. Sometimes they exist in one person. Sometimes you need a team for that to happen. And I know Aquarius, like, I can just do it all by myself. I super smart. Yeah, and you can for sure, but perhaps that's not what is required. Just a thought. Or what this card is just like, keep doing what you're doing. It's like kind of like you're in the right direction. You have all of the power to you, Aquarius. So let's take that reading as well, if you're open to that. And then finally, last but not least, we have Pisces. Pisces. Yeah, it's surprising to hear like that Clyde, Bonnie and Clyde, the reading I did. I'll be posting that. I'll post that directly to Rumble on Live, but I'll have the replay with the edit with that reading. And yeah, Clyde had a lot of Pisces. It's also just because being an Aries, just the transition between the dream world into, hi, I'm a person, is there. And that's also like something that's so interesting. Okay, so Pisces, what do we have? Oh, awesome. awesome card to finish this reading with, the Fool. Always have the courage to play the Fool. It's about Pisces being able to go in it with your full heart and being able to, that's the thing about when you know too much, right? And like you can tell like subconscious motivations for things, and you can also like, oh, but what if this happens? What if that happens? So I'm not going to do anything at all, or I'm going to hurt myself before anyone has a chance to actually hurt me, you know? Or, you know, I see this thing where also like, because I have 12th house stuff going where, okay, like I'm just going to do the worst thing ever to myself, because then that will preemptively prevent someone else from being able to do that to me, because at least only I can screw myself up the most. But don't cut yourself off of potential journeys and experiences that are meant for you to have in this lifetime, Pisces, just because of past incidents or whatever have happened, or you had a dream or you have a bad feeling. I think it's always good to practice discernment, of course, but it's also good to keep the heart of a child of innocence, of being able to also give the benefit of the doubt where it's warranted, and you have that other hunch, that other little voice that goes like, you know what, maybe just give it a try. So that is my reading for you, Pisces, the Fool card. And what a beautiful way to end Magic Monday for July 17th, and the new moon in Cancer and the lunar node shifting into Aries. Our warrior spirit is now activated. So I hope you had a wonderful time, and I hope you learned something during this. I apologize if this was a little later. I think going forward I won't have it at 8, I'll have it at 9, just so there's a little bit more time to prepare for this show. If you are interested in getting a Starseed blueprint, which is a personalized reading from me, I will drop a link to that. If you want to just know your sun, moon, and rising, your Astro stack, you can also get that off of the free natal chart calculator on my site. I'm also going to have a section of all of these replays in one place with descriptions, so you can go back and find all of them, especially all the ones that I did on Sinistry, because I did ones on JFK and Marilyn Monroe, as well as Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, which I mentioned, but I also did David Bowie and Iman, and I just need to organize it so that if you want to take a look at that, you can check for that. And if you want me to run up a Sinistry reading for you and your dog, you and your significant other, you and your sister, you and a plant, we can do that. So I will have all of those details on my site in the next 24 hours, I believe. So until we speak again, my cosmic friends, I hope you have a beautiful day, evening, wherever you are in the cosmos, and we will speak very soon.